Lightning like Steve McQueen. I'm in the fast lane when the light turns green. And I built tough, I ain't nothing but grit. Cause I made rugged blood, sweat, and spit. Yeah, like a horse I fly. Better push yourself in for a bumpy ride. I like to play hard, but I work harder. And I weather the storm cause I'm built stronger.
What is up, ladies and gentlemen? We are back. We are live. It is the Freight Coach Morning Show, the top morning show in transportation, coming to you guys every single weekday, 8:30 a.m. Pacific, 10:30 Central, to break down some industry headlines and, most importantly, provide some actual insight into what you can do with all of this information, ladies and gentlemen. If this is your first time tuning in, welcome. This is the real side of freight. We only speak to transportation professionals on this show, as well as my twice a week long form podcast, Coffee with the Freight Coach. Anytime you tune in, rest assured the people who I'm interviewing and speaking with are active in the day-to-day, you guys. I don't talk to anybody who want to be thought leaders or any quote unquote subject matter experts who read an article and they're trying to position themselves in a certain type of way. These are people who are actively in the day-to-day in our industry, because we want to give you the right information that you can apply, utilize, and see a meaningful difference in your business and your life. It's one of the many reasons why I proudly fly this American flag behind me every day. A, we're the greatest nation on earth, but B, I'm living my American dream, and I want to help each and every one of you guys live yours as well. I got a guest for you guys who I'm going to bring up here in a little bit. Before I do that, I got to give a shout out to my friends over at VHub, you guys, vhubapp.com. Whether you're a broker, carrier, or a shipper, we all need access to trailers at some point in time. And for all my driver friends out there, and even my brokers, you guys, the best part, you get paid to move these. That's right. That's on top of the revenue that you can get by loading these trailers out. So with what they're working on right now, you guys, is they have West Valley City, Utah, going up to Calgary, Alberta. You get $1,550 US to move that. They also have Stoughton, Wisconsin to Milton, Ontario. Now there's 200 dry vans here, you guys, and you can legitimately create a drop trailer pool at one of your customers' facilities. If you're a broker, why do we get objections? Because we don't have assets, right? Now this is an opportunity for you guys to leverage these assets to get in the door to move some freight over to Milton. And then they have another 150 dry vans down in Paragould, Arkansas, needing to go to Mississauga. Same situation, you guys. Drop trailer pools. Think about that. Think long term. 800 Canadian to move that. And then finally, Milton, Ontario to Moncton, New Brunswick. You get 400 Canadian to do that. So hit him up, you guys, vhubapp.com. My man Xavier Campos, he's already in the audience here. Hit him up. He says, good morning, Orange Shirt Gang. All right, we're going to, Sonny Sharma, good fucking morning, Orange Shirt Gang. Let's fucking go. Zach Williams, good morning, Orange Shirt Gang. Zach's with SPI Logistics, you guys. If you guys want to become a freight agent, take control of your financial future, hit my man up there. Tracy O. St. Clair, happy Thursday. Lori O'Connell, good morning. Thanks for joining. Diego Fonseca, good morning, everyone. All right, you guys. Oh, we got some more dropping in here. Courtney Hargraves, good morning. James Davis, good morning. Thanks for joining in here. All right, you guys, I'm going to bring my guest on right now. I got my man John Payne with LoadSmart here. John, what's going on today, brother?
Hey, man, I can't believe I didn't wear an orange shirt.
Yeah,
screwed up.
It's a thing now, man. What's funny is so Sonny Sharma, he actually, when I was speaking at the TIA conference last year, he was wearing an orange shirt at it. And like, we just made up a thing at that time. Like it's the Orange Shirt Gang, Orange Nation. The next time it's just going to be like a sea of orange shirts. This is what's going to happen, man. I've manifested it. It's already going to be a thing.
All right. I'll have to bring that to my team.
Yeah, dude. Absolutely. So LoadSmart, what brought you into freight, man? How are you in this whole ecosystem of transportation?
Yes, sir. Pretty, I guess maybe more of a unique story, but I feel like on all these podcasts, I always hear people say, I guess my first intent wasn't to join freight, but then I'm here. I feel like I hear that a lot. But no, so I was on the dark side of Wall Street for my first few years, doing, debt fundraising for big companies at JP Morgan. And, I wanted to get out of that. And I looked at a bunch of different startups in the space, kind of a bunch of different spaces. And the industry that excited me the most was logistics, supply chain, the tech that was entering there. There was so much flooding back in 2018, 2019. And I discovered LoadSmart among a few others, spoke to some people, and it was just a really good fit. So here I am.
I like it, man. So, dude, how coming into this industry a few years ago now, from like, what was the biggest surprise to you, man? Like, what's one thing that stood out where you're like, holy shit, why is this done this way? Or holy shit, I can't believe this much volume actually moves at any given time.
I mean, damn, a lot comes to mind. The first one actually maybe doesn't directly answer how you phrase the question, but the first one that comes to mind is like all I was reading about in headlines, and I was going to join this, transformational tech company that was in this space. And kind of my understanding coming into it was like, wow, this industry is going to be revolutionized by tech, right? And you don't really know what that means. And I guess where I got the most surprised was that it's not just going to happen like that. And so much goes into moving one load with a trucker, with all of the different nodes in the logistics network. I would say I was surprised by how like there's tech can support and advance a lot of it, but it's not just like a tech solves this, like maybe Uber did for taxis. I guess I was surprised by all the different nodes of the supply chain network and how much personal relationships and just good old fashioned business will take you further sometimes than tech. I guess. Yeah.
No, I'm right there with you, man. I think like, again, I talk about this frequently, like technology, automation, it should be a major component of your day because it can increase your efficiencies, it can increase your outputs, and you can streamline a lot of the menial tasks that take up a lot more of your time that don't necessarily show up on your balance sheet. Lost
Right.
productivity isn't a line item on most companies' P&Ls. But I think like when you're leveraging that though, like again, I feel like that's only going to increase your output. It's only going to bring more value to the network. But there's that fine line that you have to play because I feel like humans are naturally going to gravitate towards like comfort and like the path of least resistance, where
Right.
that's when if you really want your technology to work in your favor, you can't automate a relationship, like you have to, like they need to know that you give a shit. Like I think that's like the big thing is you can have all the tech in the world, but your customer needs to feel that you care about their success.
Yeah. And I can feel my marketing people hearing my, what I just said and being like, John, we're like a transformational tech company. And you just said that the tech is, but no, to be clear, right? Like I agree with you. I think the tech is what allowed us to scale. I think there's a ton of room for it to improve this industry and make everyone's lives better. And I think Load Smart's right there at the top of doing it. It's just I've seen this transformation even at our company, right? Where it was like tech, engineers, but oh wait, also we need to know how this stuff works. And now, right now, one of our biggest KRs as a company is service-led growth, serving our customers. So I think that's kind of my point, and that aligns with what you're saying.
Yeah, no, and that's the thing, man. Service is everything. Like I talk about this frequently as well, as it's like your technology is meaningless if you can't have trucks show up, right? Like, because that's like at the end of the day, you can bring anything to a shipper to be like streamline their day, automate their life and everything, but nothing if the driver doesn't show up at 2:00 for their appointment time. You know what I mean?
Right.
And I think though, but again, like it's like a fucking superpower if you can leverage the right technology with the right people.
Yeah.
And it's like, man, I can move 100 loads a day by myself, like with the right tech and the right automation, dude, I'm instant Hall of Famer with that stuff.
Right.
But I personally love the way that the industry's trending with that. I think that the more information you get, because again, I think like technology also gets a bad rap at the early adoption phase, but it's like technology is designed for like the larger the data subs or like the data sets are, the smarter it gets. And that's kind of where things need to go. So it's like those initial building phases of things, like early on, it's kind of like,
that's where the friction is.
Yeah. But once you start pumping serious volume through these platforms, that's when you're like, because you work in pricing, right?
Correct. Yeah.
Now, like you can get that down to a point where it's like your rates are going to be so accurate 100%. The more and more you run it. Because like, again, these last 2 years had a very, obviously they were peak, high rates, high volatility, all of that stuff was going on. But it's going to be interesting to see how your stuff is going to work now that we're in a normal freight market. Does it get more accurate with its data, or does it still pull the data of the past and stuff like that? So again, like I'm personally a fan of a lot of this.
No, and that again, that's what's enabled us to still ramp up growth amidst the down market. And the spot market was where we kind of had an advantage earlier than most in the tech space because we were integrated to these TMSs, instantly pricing hundreds of thousands of quotes a day. But now every year it's cool now that I've been at LoadSmart for a good 4 years and in this same space of, network analytics, pricing strategy, all that stuff, working with our models, working with our engineers. the network effect, which is very much a buzzword, certainly just exponentially grows each year. You're collecting more data, and we've got data we're collecting with every single transaction for each carrier, and some carrier TMSs that we've actually built even. And then we've got all the data from the shipper TMSs integrations, right? And like you're saying, that does get to a point where the growth just ramps up your efficiencies and allows you to connect people in ways that, they didn't even realize could happen. So it's been great.
Yeah.
Pricing in this industry, I didn't know when I joined, but it's kind of like the core of, connecting all of these parts. It's like airlines, right? It's huge.
Oh, dude, amen. Let me see here. Kat Aiken, she says, good morning, my people. That's right, Sonny. In April in Orlando, it's going to be a thing, man. Orange shirt gang's taking over. Cody Miller says, good fucking morning, freight enthusiasts. And then he also says, 100% agree on implementing automation for repetitive tasks. He joined Neil Patel's AI GPT webinar yesterday and found out a lot of great use cases, but also agree that if you overused and it eliminates the personal connection, it can harm your partnerships. So, dude, how are you, like right now, how are you guys working with your customers? Because I'm sure a lot of the shippers that you guys work with are along the lines of how much consistent pricing can you give us? Like, how long can we lock in pricing for this year? Because, natural progression of any market cycle is obviously when it's really high. When it comes down, they got to recoup money like that. That's how businesses run. Not everybody can raise $100 billion and blow it all. Like, I'm just fucking around, but you got to make money. Like businesses are designed to make money, not just raise capital.
I will say that I have to say it just to defend our co-founders. They've been jamming it in my head since I joined. We never wanted to do the raise a shit ton of money, hire a bunch of people, grow without actual profit. So we've just been on the, let's prove profit, prove the tech, and grow in a much more steady way. So that is not as much our model.
No, absolutely. And that was just a subtle jab to all that. We were talking before we started recording about how like social media has made entrepreneurship overly glamorous, where it's like, oh, it's just fucking easy. You just raise all this money and do all this shit, and all of a sudden you're a millionaire. And I'm like,
I raised $10 million today without lifting a finger. Here's how.
Yeah, exactly. But so like, how are you, because as the market has since normalized, how are you guys working to provide that consistent pricing to your carriers and your customers? Because I think like that's anybody's, like that's obstacle and like that's priority number one. Because I believe shippers, they want consistent pricing, right? Same with carriers. Like I think if you can actually lay out a plan to a carrier partner of this is what your revenue will look like for the next 6 months, and not have a fucking up and down spike, or you're making $8 a mile one day and then $1 a mile the next day, that can keep people sustainable and in business.
Yeah. I mean, obviously it's been a roller coaster, right? So again, pricing, market intelligence right now and over the past year and a half has been an absolute wild ride. Consistent pricing, I maybe it's counterintuitive to how you're laying it out, but honestly, one of my kind of brainchilds and where I've spent the most time to try to innovate and make this system more efficient is kind of the opposite, right? Of course, there are your lanes, and we work with this in our shippers. So you talk consistent pricing. If there's some high volume short hauls where we know the facilities are easy to work with, the carriers love the lanes, we've done them before, we're an incumbent, or we have a ton of data of our capacity in those networks, right? Yes, we're going to say, hey, we know that over a 6 to 12 month period, our costs aren't going to change that dramatically, even when the market shifts. On those lanes, shippers, we're going to show you them to, power lanes, whatever you want to call it. Let's lock these into contracts. We're not scared of the market shift. We'll be your partner and our carriers will be our partner, right? But I just think there's so many other lanes that we have been exposed to over the years. And in terms of volumes, I don't know where the percentages lie, but it's just, 50% at least, I think, of the freight volumes that we see are not always on those perfect, easy to move, can run them all day and the price doesn't change that much. And so in my mind, honestly, for consistency, it's not consistent pricing. It's you want a consistent partner. And in order to get a consistent partner, we've built this solution that you've probably heard, some people call them cost plus models. We like to think, and I do feel confidently, right, that ours is kind of an evolved version of that to make sure that we as a broker are always incentivized to get the lowest price possible. But we have a solution that actually we think should float with the market, because like you're saying, right? It's just such a roller coaster. I feel like there are a lot of lanes where a fixed, consistent rate structure doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
Especially not if you're honest with your shipper, if you're honest with your carrier. Everyone knows what everyone's paying, because that's a big part of this program. We call it reliable contracts. I think if you show them what the costs are, you show them the markup that you're taking for servicing the solution, and you show them where the market is, and maybe you even tie it to a benchmark, like that makes a lot more sense to me for some lanes, just because you're never going to get consistent rates on some lanes. Is kind of my point.
Yeah. This is awesome. I've been doing this for a couple of days now.
Yeah.
I'm like this whole interviewing people and getting so I know I've been able to identify segues, and
Okay.
that's what we have now. So we're going to segue into our first article here.
You're an expert.
Ironically, about dynamic pricing.
Yeah.
As always, you guys, any of the articles that I break down, the links will be uploaded over to the Freight Coach YouTube channel, as well as the Coffee with the Freight Coach audio only replay, which is up on iTunes and Spotify almost immediately after the show. And if you guys do go over to those other platforms, as always, do your boy a solid. Subscribe and share. Rank the show. If you think I gave 5-star information, hit that 5-star out there, you guys, because at the end of the day, if you guys see value, your network's going to see value in it as well. Article, freightwaves.com, dynamic pricing is heading LTL's way, or is it? Oh, sorry, I had to overemphasize that last part. Anyone who's booked an airline ticket online has interacted with a model known as dynamic pricing. Put simply, it's a process by which airlines adjust fares on often on a moment's notice to reflect real-time changes in supply and demand. The less than truckload industry, hardly a first mover in information technology, is slowly moving in that direction as well. For LTL, the shift is a big deal. For generations, it's been pricing's been a static phenomenon. It's taken two forms. One is a direct base rate pricing, typically between large shippers and their carriers. The others is called blanket pricing, in which carriers load pricing into third-party logistics providers, TMSs. And so, when it comes to dynamic pricing, this is kind of like what we were talking about right there. How does this work into the shipper or the carrier's benefit here? Because it's like with that real-time information, and it could be like, hey, the load's paying, this is, I went to public school, you guys, so just give me a break on my math here. But it's like the load's paying $500 right now at 9:45 my time. And then, it's $550 or $700, or it's $200 now, 3 minutes later. Mm-hmm. How do you market that to somebody who is the service provider, like the trucking company, who was like, dude, I went to hit book and it didn't work, and then I refreshed my screen and it was $50 less?
Mm-hmm. How do you market that? Well, there are, of course, lanes where we do lock them in with, fixed rates, right? They want consistency as much as we do on a lot of lanes. So when we can, we try not to do that. If we have a lane that's a solid lane, we have consistent volumes, or even if we just consistently see it in the spot market, we'll set them up on contracts so that they don't get hit with that. But I think it's just, working with them. We allow like kind of automated negotiation on our platform. Also, if a carrier is trying to bid a load and then all of a sudden they see it's cheaper. So it's not like, they can't still negotiate, but I think it's just all about educating all sides. And right, hey, carrier A, if it dropped 50 rates, like we've got another carrier who's willing to do it at that rate. We can talk through that. But it's, for me, it's just educating and making sure everyone's aligned with the fact that it's a dynamic market, that truly there's just so many hundreds of thousands of trucks on the road. That stat everyone loves, the 90% of trucks are like 6 or fewer, it's just such a dynamic market that to think that rates wouldn't change every second is just, in my opinion, incorrect for most lanes.
Yeah. So, but how do you, working with that consistency factor, how, because, I've had this happen before where it's like working with the same carrier, I call my core carrier base on those exact same lanes out there to remove that pricing volatility, because it doesn't always drop in the shipper's favor. Outbound Los Angeles, for example, in some days the market can raise $800 in the matter of 15 minutes. Mm-hmm. I've seen some crazy shit happen out there. Mm-hmm. So how is that conversation with the shipper in those moments?
With the shipper, we do a few things. One, anytime they hit our API and we give them a spot quote, we honor that quote. Even mm-hmm. even if like a system reran it, or they see that it's $800 somewhere else, they will get to book it at that initial quote that they had. So That's one thing. The other thing that we do, again, right, we want to work with them. So on the reliable contracts thing that I mentioned, the dynamic kind of contract, that is where we would show you, hey, this is literally what our payment to the carrier was. We're not spiking up margin. That's not what this is. This is cost shift, and here's how it goes. The other is when it's API spot pricing, we offer actual rate guards. Like we say, hey, if you want to implement something that like puts a ceiling on how much we can charge you, otherwise we just won't send you a quote if we go above that, feel free. Because a lot of people get worried, right, that if you have this system that's just automatically booking freight, that all of a sudden you're just going to be booking rates that are skyrocketing. You're not easily able to stop the bleeding or monitor it, but we have automated systems in place to do exactly that.
Okay. Yeah, man. I think like, again, for me, as like when it comes down to like quoting, I think like that's because like that's such a big part of now. Price isn't everything, right? Like it's
100%.
it's at first, yes, but after you have added so much value to your customers,
Correct, yeah.
they don't necessarily check you as much as they do in the beginning. But most people get lost in that portion of it, John, where it's like just like with everybody, like you're onboarding, you're in a new RFP, there's 30 new providers in there. It's low-hanging fruit season for the most part. Everyone's just fucking grabbing at it. And then give it 6 months and it's a little bit less, and then a little bit less. And then I personally think it takes like a solid year of working with the shipper at volume to really prove yourself. But everybody's
if not more. Yeah.
Yeah. But everybody's like, oh, well, I offer premium service. Do you though? Like just because you
prove it.
Yeah, exactly. And that's the one thing is it's like, well, I charge more because I do better. Do you though? Like really, what are you fundamentally doing that's different from your competition out there?
We struggled with that, I think, early, being like, hey, but we have tech. And it's like, but I don't care about your tech. Show me that you can service my freight and then I'll let you grow. Right.
Yeah.
And obviously that never gets felt more than this bottom of the market when everyone's dying for contract freight. And with the partners that we've been servicing now for the past year, for past 2 years, past 4 years, whatever, those are the ones that, they want to grow with you because you've just been handling their freight well, not because we were 10% below market the whole time.
Yeah. And, it's like, and just for everybody out there who's listening right now, like, and art, like something about dynamic pricing, like, and I think like, again, you guys had articles from freightwaves.com and dynamic pricing is heading LTL's way.
Yeah.
I think one thing is like, I always like to add the caveats in there. Like this isn't going to be an adoption by every single shipper in North America. And then some people, but again, like people see that stuff. They're like, oh, this is going to be everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
I personally think it's a lot of it's a smaller sector of the industry than most people actually can comprehend that would adopt something like that. Cause they have
particularly for LTL.
Yeah. But it's gotta be volume based because like a shipper who moves 20 shipments in a month or even 200 shipments in a month, I can't say that they wouldn't be interested in it, but it's like, is it really worth the onboarding of it all for that? But a shipper like, a Kraft Heinz, for example, who moves 50 shipments a second per se, that would be very, very valuable for them.
And they've been they've loved the instant pricing, the tech. Yeah.
And that's the thing is it's like, it's multiple locations, it's nationwide and it's high volume freight. And I think like, that's where a lot of it is beneficial to. And I also want people to, because back to what you were saying earlier, like 97% of this industry is small business, right? Like people can't make the technology investments in certain situations. I think you should, but you got to invest wisely on where you put it. But like, what can you learn from this stuff? Like, this is what I want this information to be out there for people because it's like, as markets trend this way, as customers trend this way, how can you be better prepared for the inevitable, hey, we use LoadSmart to tender our freight. This is how it's done. Mm-hmm. And because you need to be on top of this stuff because it's only a matter of time before there's going to be somebody who develops something for the small to mid-sized market and or even like however you want to spin it. It's coming. Right. Be prepared for it, but it's not here to like do anything but like, again, benefit how you're operating.
Definitely. And we've turned toward that SMB sector, right? Like how can our tech help them get more business? Or if you're a carrier, how can it move your trucks more efficiently? But on the LTL pricing thing, since you brought it up, I'm not an LTL expert. Certainly where I started was FTL. And that's where a large majority of our business sits. And but we've expanded our LTL offering a ton over the past 2-3 years. And I was speaking with some of our LTL guys about it. And to your point, right? Like the headline, dynamic pricing, whatever, like we couldn't be more in this heart, I like to think at least, of dynamic pricing in the freight tech market, right? Like we've been doing this for 6 years. We were one of the first to do instant pricing integrations at large scale, whatever. I was talking to my LTL guys, like, no, it's really hard to dynamically price LTL. We've got a few carriers who do it, and it does work when there's some good volume opportunities. But overall, most carriers are not willing to do that yet, and probably won't be for some time. So it's not like that dynamic pricing is taking over LTL.
For sure.
So
The opportunities are plentiful. Like I don't think people can actually comprehend what like a $900 billion industry actually entails. Like
I'm not sure I can. Yeah.
I don't think anybody really can, because it's like, dude, you think, because I look at it like this, John, like, again, I've been doing this for a couple of days, and there's some lanes that are out there that I'm like, why the fuck would a carrier want to run to like from Hurricane Utah to nobody cares northern New Mexico? Well, that's just what, Jill and Tim have been doing for the last 40 years. And that's all they want to do. And, oh, wait, there's 50 loads a week that move on that lane. And you're like, what? And like, you can build you like legitimately, dude, you could build, I'm convinced of this. You could build a $30 million a year brokerage by just running like Phoenix to Vegas over to LA and back to Phoenix.
Right.
You could easily build a $30 million company. And like, but what's crazy though,
that
to me,
much freight.
yeah, there is that much freight, and people would be like, oh, a $30 million brokerage isn't that big. Build one then. Like build one. Show me.
Right. No, I'm certainly with the access to all of the networks, all these huge shippers, these like that you can just see all of their freight. And then even if you just participate in an RFP, right, you're like, holy, like this is a massive, massive space. And the room for disruption is plentiful. We've been talking about that. We were talking about that yesterday, but careful with the word disruption, right? Isn't that what you say?
Yeah, nobody likes the word disruption.
Yeah. Hey, shipper, I'm going to disrupt you.
Yeah, I'm here to disrupt your day. The fuck you are. Get out of here. So, dude, as we're kind of wrapping up here, man, I choose articles, but I like these free-flowing conversations. I think like this is where a lot of value lies for so many individuals, and I'll gladly be the dumbest person in the room when it comes to asking questions, because I just know that if I have these questions, I know I'm not the only one who has these questions. Yep. And, so for me, it's like, where do you see this stuff transitioning to? Like from a freight perspective, I personally think the industry is transitioning into a hub and spoke model for certain segments. I feel like with consumer purchasing being what it is, and that I need it in an hour, or, that's the expectation. I think that cross-country freight en masse is going to go away. It's going to be there still, but there's just not going to be a need to rush order something from LA to Atlanta anymore. It's going to be, we can just pull it out of Nashville or Charlotte
nearby.
Yeah. So are like the people you're talking to, is that something that's on their roadmap, or you're not privy to that information?
Well, funny enough, just because I have to plug, why would I not? Stella is a data scientist on my team, and she just loves to read all about freight. And she writes up these reports that we put out on our blog. I'll send you the link. But the most recent ones was kind of this like decentralization and the Amazonification, if you will, of getting all these more local warehouses so truckers don't have to do these big moves. And we have another platform that's a dock, scheduling solution for carriers that gives us insight into how long carriers in certain areas are waiting when they have to, drop off the freight and leave, all that stuff. And certainly we are seeing there is a mass movement in the US of more local runs, and the warehouse is getting, so regardless of whether we've talked to our partners about it, we are seeing it happen. And then you sent that Target article, right? Couldn't align with this trend more. And that's one of our partners. So yeah, I certainly agree with you that kind of the local runs are going to keep our short haul percentage in terms of short to medium haul as a, for our whole freight has skyrocketed in terms of its proportion of our freight. Long haul has certainly shrunk.
And I see that as continuing to trend. I really do. I've been saying that now for, I don't know. I got receipts. Somebody could check me on that. Maybe October of last year is when I like,
you
when
got
I was
the crystal ball.
Yeah. Well, no, I just have I'm starting to see it, because like I always try and model this industry based off of what I do as a consumer, right? Where it's like, am I like, I love supporting small businesses when small businesses have the stuff in stock, but it's like, if I got to get something in an hour, like I think most people naturally go to an Amazon. And then I've just been thinking about that a lot. I'm like, because you see, like, especially here in Phoenix, like Phoenix is blowing up from a transportation perspective, dude. Like there's literally nothing around us. It's all rent desert. So you can build for fucking miles.
And it's easy for carriers to get in and out, right?
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
But I'm seeing that now where there's more micro fulfillment centers being built up. So it's like I can see it happening where, you look at it coming in from Long Beach and then coming over to Phoenix. And then I lived up in Reno, Nevada for a while. And Reno is like the warehousing capital of North America because it's hyper tax friendly for businesses out there. Instead of storing it in Cali, they truck it over to Nevada. And you're starting to see those little micro fulfillment centers pop up because, like Walmart has the distribution center. Like I'm pretty sure it's every 500 miles in any direction. There's a Walmart DC. And I think to remain competitive in that market, I think where it will transition to is you're going to see more shared distribution center spaces. I like maybe not like a
They'll
Target
work together.
yeah, not like Target and Walmart direct competitors, but it's like you look at a Home Depot and an Amazon, for example, like stuff like that. I could see that being a thing of the future. Again, that's just me spitballing. We're over on time. I got to be mindful of everybody's time. We kind of fucking went. Jonathan, how does anybody find out more? If they want to reach out to you to learn more about LoadSmart or just to pick your brain?
I mean, loadsmart.com is a good start, but on our blog, you'll see we post all these monthly market updates with market intelligence and stuff like that. And my email's at the bottom of those. But jonathan.payne@loadsmart.com. Please reach out whenever if you have thoughts or want to talk about the articles or, and anything like that. And yeah, that's it from me. It's been a pleasure.
Yeah, I love it, man. Thank you so much for joining today. And that's it for today, you guys. As always, we'll be back tomorrow, 8:30 in Pacific, 10:30 Central. And if you guys saw value in it, you guys share the show. That's all I can ask. Subscribe, share. That's how we are the top transportation show, is because of you guys doing it. But for us to continue to grow and to reach the Joe Rogan levels, which we're going to, just got to keep sharing the show, you guys. But that's it. I appreciate you guys. I love you guys. And we'll be talking to you soon.